Over the past 2 months, I have interviewed 171 leaders around where they feel the strongest, where they're struggling, and where they most need to improve. In this video, I'm going to share with you one of the biggest things that is cropping up around most leaders cannot rest without feeling guilty. They also don't recover and decompress consistently. And the exercise that I'm about to take you through has taken myself from experiencing crippling anxiety on the daily to now not having experienced anxiety in over 4 years. I've consistently grown my business, I'm in the best shape of my life, and I show up as a great leader to my clients who've achieved life-changing results. And I've used this with one particular client who was off work completely due to burnout and stress, and they have returned successfully to work within 12 weeks, and they're now back full-time, enjoying work, and they have signed a multi-million contract within their work. That is the power of doing this right. So I'm going to take you through a framework that you can implement right now. I would recommend actually going along through it with me and pausing the video so that you can do it yourself. And this is going to show you the exact signs that you need to look out for in order to recognize when do you need to rest. Just so you can see that, I'm just hiding people's info there, the complete leaders audit. Where's it gone? 171. Okay, these are the dates. There's a lot of them being completed. These 2 questions here, so we can see there's a big majority of people who are scoring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this question. 5 or below is not a strong score, as well as here, a very similar pattern. Most people do not recover and decompress consistently. 1, 2, 3, 4, by far being the most popular answers. And this is a huge problem in leadership, because if you are trying to show up and lead other people with good energy, you're trying to be level-headed, you cannot do that if you are absolutely knackered and you're absolutely running on fumes. And before we start, there is one fundamental thing that you need to understand when it comes to resting, is that rest is a requirement. It is not a reward. A lot of people treat it, especially ambitious leaders, they treat rest as a reward for when they've done something, okay? But it really isn't that way. You have to flip the perspective, and that rest is actually a requirement in order for you to get the result that you want, whether that's improving your leadership for your clients or team, growing your business, just progressing in life, getting into fantastic shape. Rest is a key ingredient as to how you can do that. So let's go into the exercise, and as I said, I recommend going along through it with me as I go. This is a system that I call the traffic light energy system. And I use this with my clients inside the Lead from the Front coaching program to great success. And it was also one of the most transformational things that I did within my journey to go from anxiety and burnout to actually leading from the front, feeling in great physical and mental shape, growing my business and showing up as a leader to my clients. So let's get stuck straight into it. So the first thing we need to do, and I again would recommend you draw this with me, is we're going to draw a funnel. That's a terrible one here. Okay, now this funnel, we're now going to split it into 3 different sections. Now, what we're going to do first is the first section we need to identify is this top section. And we're going to call this our green zone. Now, what this green zone represents is when do you feel at your best? Okay, when do you feel at your best? Now, what we want to list in here is a list of symptoms that you feel mentally, that you feel physically, also habits and behaviors around, if you think back to your absolute best days, your best weeks, what things were you feeling? And what actions were you actually performing on a regular basis? So let's go through a few examples. These are just a few examples that might be relevant for you. It might be getting out of bed on time. Okay, that might be one. It might be training consistently in the gym. Okay, it might be You feel focused. You have consistent energy. It might be you do hard things by choice. Okay, it might be, well, you get the picture. Okay, whatever comes up for you. We want to basically really think about some of the things where you're at your best, and list them out. And these include, as I said, symptoms, okay, both physical, that's terrible writing, and mental symptoms. Okay, we want to identify that, and it's also going to be actions and habits. Okay, these are the sorts of things. So what I would do is recommend pausing this video here and actually set a 2-3 minute timer and really think about, when are you at your best? What symptoms are you experiencing, and how do you feel physically? How do you feel mentally? Okay, and what actions and habits are you exhibiting on a regular basis? So I'd recommend pausing this video here and going through that now. Once you've done that, the next section we need to identify is the bottom, okay? And we're going to call this our red zone. Now, I appreciate this might not be nice to think about, but it is important to think about. And we're going to do exactly the same thing here around when you are at your absolute worst, okay? Same thing. What symptoms do we experience physically? What symptoms do we feel mentally? And what actions and habits do we actually, exhibit on a daily basis? So for me, I'm going to be very transparent. I did this exercise in therapy, and a big part of it, I've never been an anxious person, and I developed what I thought was random anxiety, but I now know it wasn't. And being anxious, having panic attacks, is me at my absolute worst. Okay, and this was a big problem that I was experiencing because of not resting. So I've had to learn this the hard way. Okay, so these were two big things here. When I'm at my worst, I also don't want to get out of bed. It's a real struggle. Okay, might be no training. Might be snapping at people. Okay, what else? Fast food all the time because I don't have the energy to do it. All of these things, okay? It might be taking the easy option. These are very general, but these two, anxiety and panic attacks, were massive for me. And I just want to share that with you because I know this is something a lot of leaders struggle with. So again, same thing. We want to go through now and identify what are the symptoms, okay, that we experience when we're in the red, physically, mentally, and what sort of actions and habits do you feel you do when you are in the red? Okay, so I recommend pausing this video, take 2 to 3 minutes to identify that now, and go ahead and do that. Once you have identified that, the hardest bit now is identifying this middle section, okay? Because when we're at our best, that is in one extreme. And humans, we like to work in extremes. We like going from all or nothing, black, white, on, off. It's much easier to make decisions here. And this is where so many people get stuck. So what we need to do now is identify where is our amber zone. And the better you get at this, the less you are ever going to be burnt out, okay? That is the amazing thing about it. But the hard thing about this is that it is far less obvious, okay? It is much less obvious to catch these things in amber. So I want you to think about now, again, I'll work through this example now. What are the symptoms that you feel physically and mentally when you might be slipping into amber? If green is up here and you feel super focused and have consistent energy, if red is anxiety and panic attacks, again, these are just my examples, what is in the middle? This took me a long time to work out, but I realized I was having constant headaches, okay? I actually call this, me and my now wife call this fuzzy head, okay? And it just feels like my head has, brain fog, okay? That's exactly what it is, okay? I realized that these things were big symptoms that I was experiencing regularly. And because I didn't know what was happening, I didn't listen to it, okay? And I'll go on to that shortly. But what are the symptoms? Okay, physically, energy crashes. Okay, that was a big one. Oversleeping. Or snoozing my alarm often. Okay, it might be doing the minimum, whether that's training, whether that's work. These are big examples of being in amber. It might be, you get the picture, but the biggest ones for me were these things here. And I realized that actually before I ever felt anxious, before I ever got to having panic attacks, I would always experience headaches, a fuzzy head, and brain fog and energy crashes beforehand. And that might be a few hours before and I didn't listen to it, or that might be days before, even consistently for the past few weeks. So what I recommend now is pause this video and go and work out what is your amber zone here between these two extreme reference points. What for you do you notice from physical symptoms within your body? How does your body feel? Mental symptoms, how do you feel in your mind? And what actions and habits are you exhibiting regularly when you might be in this amber zone? Now take 5 minutes, because this, as I said, is much less obvious to actually catch. So go ahead, do that now, and then I'll explain the last bit of the exercise. So now that you've done that, we now have this populated here, okay? Now, this is so important, having this amber section, because what happens with most people is they will feel great one day, and because of that, they just work until, and they don't even know what signs to look out for here, and they go straight from green. One day they feel that they wake up and they are, oh my God, I feel horrendous, okay? That has not happened by chance. That has happened because we have actually slipped into here, but we haven't listened to it at all. So this is what's actually gone on. Daily, you might be slipping down, but what you notice is this one here, okay? You actually feel that you've just jumped straight from green to red, because in reality, that isn't the case. Now, when you get this right and you improve your awareness of when am I at my best, when am I in amber especially, you can stop going into red at all. Like, since I got this crack, I have not been here once, and I've continued to grow my business. I'm in better physical shape. So this really does work. And I've used this with so many clients. I had a client who's gone from being off work full-time, and he's now back into work full-time, and he did that over a period of 12 weeks because this was the first thing we identified, and the light bulb moment on the call was incredible. Straight away he said it was life-changing. So when you get it right, you will slip into amber. You will then realize, oh, there are warning signs here, okay? And you will listen to it, and instead of soldiering on, you will then listen to it and add in more recovery so that straight away you get back to there. And all you do is a natural ebb and flow between green and amber all of the time. And that is basically how the traffic light energy system works. So what I need you to do, there's obviously more detail I can go into here, but I wanted to leave you something with really actionable that you can go and do now. So you've populated this. What we need to do in order to implement the traffic light energy system is listen to these amber signals. When these things occur, we do not want to crack on and carry on. We need to rest. And what that looks like, I'll save for another video, but there are so many different things that you can do here. But effectively, in short, few ideas: always prioritizing sleep, having rest days from the gym, having a break from your desk, using a sauna or ice bath. These are just a few examples. There are so many different things, but the main take home is that in order for you to know how to rest, you actually need to know what symptoms are you looking out for. So I hope that helps. Again, this exercise will do absolutely nothing if you do not sit and do this yourself. Okay, so I'd recommend going ahead and do that, and I hope you found that really useful. That's the traffic light energy system, which is one of the key frameworks I use with clients inside Lead from the Front. When I had this conversation with a client, they realized, they said a quote, and you may be able to relate to this, in that, yeah, I have headaches quite often, but it's just one of those sorts of headaches where you take a paracetamol and then you just crack on. And I let them carry on speaking, and then afterwards I said, do you realize what you've just mentioned? You've just mentioned you were already experiencing these symptoms and you actively chose to ignore it and carry on doing what you were doing that was leading you to have those symptoms in the first place, which was overworking, no boundaries, not resting, not having a break away from the desk, always being on call to team members and clients. And the light bulb moment he had was like, wow, that is absolutely life-changing. And that's allowed him to now be back in work full-time, and he's just actually signed this like $1 million contract with his work. And all of that would not have happened if he was still burnt out and off. This exercise really can be life-changing when you do it, but it only works if you take the time to realize, what symptoms am I really looking out for? As soon as you feel those amber symptoms, that's when you want to rest. So hopefully you found this useful. This is coming from 171 leaders over the past 2 months who I've interviewed, and the overwhelming majority of them, and myself in the past, struggle to rest. So I hope you found this useful. This is the second episode in this series, and if you would like to take the Complete Leaders Audit for yourself, then hit the link in the description or visit scorecard.leadfromthefront.co.uk, and you can join, get your data in here as well, and see how you stack up compared to 171 leaders so far.